It's a video game show. It's a video game show. It's not a game show about videos. It's a video game show.
Welcome to the GamerCast Network Video Game Show, episode number 106 for Sunday, September 7th, 2008. I'm Chad, and this week for the roll call, what was your favorite moment from PAX? And joining us this evening is Keith.
I would have to say, just literally walking in there for the first time and just seeing the huge mass of people, it was kind of cool and awe-inspiring in that sense. Plus, you got to see everybody for the first time in a while and that kind of thing. I know it's not really a video game-related moment, but still, that was my favorite moment from PAX.
And also joining us is Phil.
Okay, I'm going to take this in a little different direction. I'll tell you what I didn't like about PAX. It was extremely crowded compared to last year. The lines for Left 4 Dead were ridiculously long, and I still didn't get to play it. I do have something that I enjoyed, and I want to give lots of people props because they were definitely more prepared this year with like the post-exhibition parties and the pre-exhibition parties, like the Blue Skittle party, the Gamer DNA party, and the Champions party.
And finally joining us is Ivan.
My absolute favorite part was just hanging out with all of the VGS crew, all of you guys, but also I'm not even going to go into the names because I'll forget somebody, but just everyone from the forums and stuff that I had been talking to for literally years now and have finally got to meet. It was really cool hanging out with all those guys. As far as video games go, just the slew of fantastic games. I'm going to be piss poor broke for the next 2 months just because there's like 15 games coming out that I want to buy all of, and I don't know how. Not only am I going to be able to afford them all, but how I'm going to find time to play them all.
Pimpin' ain't easy, but pays the bills.
My favorite moment, obviously, was meeting all the people on the forums, because it's the first time I met most of like Rothbard, Cypher, NC, all those guys. I'm sure I'm going to forget names, but, you know, you guys know who you are. Beyond that, I think one moment I liked a lot was actually just playing Magic with you guys. That's been the first time in like 10 years I actually played a Magic card game.
Yeah, that was a lot of cool, too. It was kind of funny. We went there to see all the video games, and we wound up doing analog gaming.
Yeah, but they have a whole section at PAX, for those that don't know, for board games, miniatures, and card games. So if anybody's to laugh at you for that, you can definitely thumb your nose at them.
Does anybody even really do that?
Thumb their nose at people?
Yeah.
Okay, if you really want to, you can extend your hand and give them the universal signal for they are number one.
That, I think, is done much more frequently than thumbing your nose at people.
This week on the GamerCast Network. On episode number 160, Gamer Tag Radio are having an exclusive podcast interview with hip-hop rising star Terminology about his debut album, Politics As Usual, coming out on September 30th. Find out what he had to say about working on the project, old school gaming, working with hip-hop legendary producer DJ Premier, and much more. On the Sarcastic Gamer PlayStation podcast, it's time to find out how Sony really fared at PAX. So, what's the buzz coming out of one of the biggest gaming events of the year? Find out on this week's episode of Uncle Gamer Radio. Tune into the Post-Game Report to get all the facts. Post-game. On Sarcastic Gamer, PAX was awesome, but Extra Life is coming up on October 18th. Tune in for all the details. Discover the podcast community that brings you all these great podcasts and more. GamerCastNetwork.com.
Next topic.
What do we think of PAX overall here as a show? This year, there were 58,000 people in attendance, and boy did it show.
Well, that's the problem with PAX, is since this is, I think, the 5th PAX. The first one, obviously, it was new. They didn't know how many to expect, but every year since then, they've exponentially increased every year, and they're never prepared for how many people are really going to show up. Based on stuff that I've read on Penny Arcade and other places, that they had no anticipation of close to 60,000 people actually showing up. Last year, it was 40-something. It was an awesome time. It was an awesome convention. Everybody, PAX and all of the people showing games, went out of their way to make everyone feel like, you know, they were not necessarily part of the industry, but, you know, showing off things that in the past was saved for E3, and you had to be media to get into E3 or have connections or something. Now, obviously, the problem with that is so many people showed up that was difficult to do.
Well, I think the key word that you said was see stuff, because most of the time you're just seeing the games, not actually playing the games. Keith, did you ever end up getting a chance to play Fallout 3?
No, I did not. I had fun with the people, but PAX itself was a letdown to me because it was just so chaotic. And I mean, the games that I wanted to just try out and play, obviously, I mean, Phil, they all waited in line for Left 4 Dead for what, an hour, 45 minutes, hour and a half, and you only got halfway through the line.
You guys walked by at least about 5 times, and then it was like, okay, I've had enough. We can play probably Gears of War and check Dead Space and a whole bunch of other games by the time we got up to Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, now, Ivan and me here actually got in a little earlier, and we actually saw and played some games. But for the most part, if you weren't part of the media stuff, if you didn't have a special media badge, you were stuck in line most of the time.
Fortunately, I actually got to try the games I really wanted to try. So we got to play Fallout 3 for a little bit. We got to play Left 4 Dead.
I don't think that some of the people who were showing off demos prepared the demos for short play. Because when Keith actually got to try out Galactrix, it took like 10, 15 minutes to play the battle. And that was kind of ridiculous.
If you read or heard anything of Sarcastic Gamer, they actually got kicked out of Left 4 Dead because they kind of played it till the end of the demo, and they had anticipated anyone doing that, so they asked them to move on so that other people could play.
I think that would have made it much better had they prepared it that way so that you're going to play for like 5 minutes. Because even for Champions and that kind of thing, the guy that Bob was waiting behind was literally standing there for like 40 minutes playing the little demo. Because the demo wasn't ending, and I can't blame the people. I mean, they should have had the common courtesy to play for a little bit and move on, but people would literally stand there and keep playing until the end of the demo.
Then there was, I don't even remember what game it was. It was an MMO.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Was it? Yeah, okay. So it was Dungeons and Dragons, and there was like that whole section where I just wanted to run around and kill something, and I couldn't find anything to kill. I just wanted to check out the combat, and I couldn't even do that. And then even World of Warcraft, when Chad and I were in there early, we stopped by to check that out. They had a bunch of pre-made guys. I jumped in as the druid. They didn't have the new area set up, or at least I didn't know how to get there, so I just went over to try and kill something. I realized none of the talent points were spent, so I had to do that first. And then I went to go attack something and realized that none of the spell bar things had spells in it, so I couldn't really even attack anything. So I mean, as much as I wanted to see Wrath of the Lich King and see what it was like, I couldn't even try it because nothing was like set up. And then I heard later on, I don't know if it was Phil or somebody from a different show, but they said they'd stopped by the Lich King demo and they were all at the login screen. They couldn't log in, like they weren't even set up.
Oh yeah, Friday and Saturday they said it was down because they were patching the beta.
Maybe that's not a good time to patch the beta, is at a convention where you're trying to show your game.
Next topic.
Okay, so let's move on to some games here that we saw at PAX. And one game that we had talked about, and once you guys played it at PAX, I didn't really get a good vibe from you that you liked it as much as you thought you would. Champions Online.
I kind of had watched Bob play a little bit, and I don't know. To me, I don't know.
Maybe it's still too early for the game.
It was definitely too early. Bob had even said that he talked to a guy or something, and they said that some of the powers weren't even in. He got the feeling it was even like a pre-release alpha, like the code is nowhere near being done.
That's what the guy actually said, because we even just went to the character screen, because we all know to look at the character screen, what button do we press?
C.
Correct. And he's like, oh, you're not supposed to be there, and went and like hit escape for us real quick. It wasn't far enough along to be anything more than just a functional play level.
Now, I haven't played City of Heroes or Villains yet. Is it much of a difference from that game in terms of actual gameplay?
In the sense that the way they did the endurance and the powers and that kind of thing is completely different. In Champions, you gain endurance by attacking.
I didn't understand that. You get more endurance by punching somebody.
They're going with an adrenaline sense. So you have your first attack that as you attack more, you gain endurance, and then when you gain endurance, you can do your special powers. Whereas in City of Heroes or City of Villains, you just kind of have your attack and they're on timers.
Anyone who's played Warcraft, it's like a cooldown. You cast a spell, and then you have to wait for it to regenerate before you can cast it again.
And you do have endurance in City of Heroes and Villains as well. So if you run out of endurance, you kind of have to stand there and wait. They wanted it to be, from what the guy said, was more nonstop action kind of a feel. But you didn't get to see any of the real powers. You didn't get to see any of the movement powers. So I don't think it was far enough along to really base an opinion on the game.
I overheard Bob talking to the guy. Real quick background, like the biggest rule in Champions is that there is no rules, so you can create a guy who can do anything that you want him to do. In City of Heroes and Villains, you're kind of tied to these classes. So if you want to be a blaster, you can be like a fire blaster or ice blaster or something. In Champions, the role-playing game, there's no rules. You can do whatever it is you want to do. So Bob asked that question. In a game that has to have a finite number of things that you can do, how are you going to implement this idea that you can do and be whatever you want to be? His answer was that kind of like City of Heroes, they have these different kinds of archetypes. I'm going to have a hard time explaining this because I didn't have an easy time understanding how he was explaining it.
What he was getting at, from I could understand, is you kind of pick a base type, but you can mix and match the powers. You can make your essential tank mage. You could be an armored blaster guy if you want. You're going to have a limit on how many powers you can have.
So they are going to put some structure in terms of powers.
You have to have structure, though. I mean, literally, you could do anything. And, all right, say I wanted to shoot razor confetti from my fingers. I could do that in the role-playing game. How would one necessarily animate that? You have a limited number of animations that you could put in there.
That would be sweet.
That's something that's never going to be animated that way.
Or at the very least, it's not going to be called razor confetti.
It should.
I know, but I'm saying even if you go through all the options and they have one that looks like little sprinkles coming out of your fingertips, it's not going to be called razor confetti.
Your battle thing can be, let's get this party started.
As far as the way the gameplay looks, it doesn't look a lot different from City of Heroes. Graphically, it looks a little different, but as far as gameplay goes, it looked a lot like it. So I think if you're going to want to play it, the draw is going to be kind of you can do whatever you want to do, even though they're going to have to force you in certain directions. Whereas City of Heroes, you've got like 5 basic types of guys that you could be, and you could tailor them a little bit. The big draw there was you could make yourself look however you wanted, because they had hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of combinations.
I would assume Champions is going to be the same, because you're not going to basically be able to go out there and say, this isn't City of Heroes, but we don't have as much stuff as it, so come play it.
Bottom line is I really loved superhero games, and I really liked City of Heroes, but this didn't look like something that would tear me away from World of Warcraft.
Next topic.
Another game, real quick. Now, you guys heard more about this after, because I remember the first day we were there, you saw the Magic the Gathering for the Xbox Live Arcade. The first time we talked to the guy, it sounded like this was just basically Duel of the Planeswalkers.
It's actually called Duels of the Planeswalkers, too, I believe.
Duels of the Planeswalkers was the old PC Magic game from years ago. It was just a subset of the Magic cards at the time, and you can make your own decks and everything, and it was basically just playing standard straight-up Magic on the PC. From what we had saw on the first day, it sounded like that was going to be the same thing on the Xbox Live Arcade. But did you hear something more about that? Because it sounded like that was not what it was.
Well, what we had heard was that it's going to be essentially everything that we had heard the first day, but the exception being that you aren't going to be able to create your own decks.
It's going to be all pre-constructed decks.
With some tailoring. So you'll play the games, you'll unlock new cards, and you might be able to swap a couple cards out here or there, but you're not going to be able to start from 0 cards and build a deck up however
Which was how Duels of the Planewalkers was.
So I had talked to somebody, and his impression was that the reason they were kind of doing it that way is that they were kind of trying to do a Magic Online Lite. So they're releasing this game. It's going to be cool. You'll be able to do all this stuff. But if you want the real experience where you can buy new cards, build your decks however you want, constantly get new additions as the actual card sets come out, they want you to play Magic Online, kind of transition to the PC thing. And obviously the reason they want to do that is because you have to pay.
Money.
You got to pay for all those extra cards and everything. It is their cash hog because you have to do everything. You got to pay money to buy tickets so that you can enter in tournaments and gameplay things. And then on top of that, you have to pay money to buy booster packs or starter sets. Digitally, that's where they make all their money.
Well, it is kind of sad that they're taking away some of the fun features from the Xbox Live Arcade version, like deck building.
That was another thing when I found that out. It was just kind of like, why? I mean, see, I would be very happy even if they did it as, if you wanted to play online, multiplayer, against other people, you could only use these pre-constructed decks. But for single player, it's Duels of the Planewalker. You get some random cards to start, and as you go beat things, you get more cards, and you can build your own deck kind of thing. And that takes away a lot from that game. I mean, yes, I'll probably still get it because I'll have some fun with it, but the excitement level for it has gone down considerably.
Next topic.
One game that Bob, Keith, and Ivan played was Lego Batman. Does it look any different than Lego Indiana Jones or Star Wars?
No, not really.
Gameplay doesn't look much different, but it looks really cool because it's Batman, so it's dark.
And if you've played any of those games, you know the general gameplay. And if you haven't played any of those games, shame on you and go play those games because they're oodles and oodles and oodles of fun. You know, it's Lego Batman. Everything from the other Lego games, I mean, you could be the villains. When you unlock the villains, you could run around as Joker or Mr. Freeze or the Riddler or those kind of things. The thing that they had in there that I didn't really notice from the other ones is they had the batarangs, where if you held down a certain button, it brings up a little logo for your guy, and you move it around, and then your guy throws your little batarang out, and it goes around and picks stuff up and that kind of deal. You had to work together kind of to get to certain spots. You know, Robin had to put on his little magnetic boot suit to climb up the little first wall to lower down the ladder for Batman to climb up.
They did a lot of that in Indiana Jones. There was a lot of that. You need two specific people to get through a section.
So now Batman is cool. You guys go on hating Batman years, and now, Batman's cool.
No, we've never hated Batman. Well, maybe Ivan has, but all we said was Batman is the only cool thing from DC. That's all we've ever said.
I just have this thing. I don't like most of the DC universe. I don't mind Batman. I've seen all the Batman movies, and aside from the middle
crap ones.
Yeah, the crap ones. The first two were good and the last two were good. Actually, the Batman the Animated Series I used to watch all the time. I actually enjoy that. I like to tease and make fun of Batman because I don't think he's as good a superhero as other ones from Marvel, but I do tolerate him. I think he's all right. So now, if they made a Batman game, I don't know that I would play it. If they made a Justice League game, I don't know that I would play it. But if you make a Lego, any one of those, I might play it just because the Lego games are a lot of fun. There's very few things that you can do with Lego that, I shouldn't say that, because somebody will be able to think of something, but you know what I mean. The Lego games are fun enough that it almost doesn't matter what Lego thing it is. It's going to be
Lego
fun.
Barbie Adventure 2011, huh?
Oh, boy.
Next topic.
The only other one we should touch on real quick from PAX is Rock Band 2 and Guitar Hero World Tour.
Which is probably the game that our group got the most time with.
Did anybody notice anything really different with Rock Band 2?
The biggest difference I saw in playability for Rock Band 2 was that the singer now has, for lack of a better term, blue notes. So if you're familiar with Guitar Hero or Rock Band, if you're playing a guitar or the drums, you'll get to a point where after you've played for a while and successfully hit a bunch of notes, they turn blue, and if you successfully hit all those blue notes, it increases your star power. It seemed random to me in Rock Band 1 when the singer got that chance. Now the singer has essentially blue notes, so there'll be words highlighted in blue, and if the singer gets, I think, an awesome, meaning that they hit each one of those notes successfully, that increases their star power.
I thought the guitar was a lot better for Rock Band 2.
So there's two things. I had talked with Chris, and one of the things I didn't know, apparently there's a whole new synchronization feature with the guitars. There's like a sound thing and a video thing built into the guitar. So the first time you set up Rock Band 2, you push a button on the guitar and it beeps or something with the Xbox, so it syncs the sound, and then there's some kind of video flashy light thing that you hold up and it syncs the video.
That's a technical term?
So, yes, it is very technical. I didn't want to make you guys feel dumb, so I dumped it down.
BP and flashy. Okay, got it.
So point being, though, is that the synchronization with the guitars apparently is much better, other than going in and saying I have a standard def or an LCD TV and then just kind of hoping that it synchronizes well.
From what I heard from NC was that the drums were a little more responsive.
And they didn't clack.
Yeah, that was a very noticeable difference. And he said that there was a little bit more of a bounce when you hit it, so it wasn't just like a little thud.
That's Rock Band 2. And now some people have played Guitar Hero World Tour.
I didn't like the singing interface. It was kind of this wiggly, whatever that machine is that monitors your heart rate, the heart rate machine that goes bleep, bleep. It kind of looked like that. It was this zigzaggy kind of goofy thing that wiggled around.
You need to write books that explain things, dude. Because
you know what I'm talking about, don't you? May not be technical.
I'm not mocking you. That wasn't meant as a mocking. You're good at explaining things in terms people can understand.
Quickly, the one downside that both Chris and NC had told me was the way that the drums are laid out. I don't know if you can change the layout of the drums or not. Is the cymbals are these kind of wedge things that go over the 4 drum pads. And when you're in the middle of a song and you're playing, if you're getting into it, you'll hit the drum pad underneath one of the cymbals. And when you lift the drumstick back up, it hits the underside of the cymbal. Kind of gets not stuck, but you hit the drum and it bounces back up and it hits the bottom of the cymbal. So that was kind of a problem. The other issue I had was that the guitars still look significantly smaller. They look a lot more toy-like than, not that Rock Band guitars look like real guitars, but they're larger. You don't feel like you're holding this little ukulele thing playing a guitar song. They look like they're the same size as previous Guitar Hero guitars.
And the drum set looks smaller.
The one nice thing about the Guitar Hero World Tour is that you can play with your Rock Band instruments, so they all work together.
They had to do that.
Who's going to buy 3 different sets of drums, 3 different sets of guitars? If nothing had worked together, no one would sell.
Yeah, that game would have floundered.
It's going to really kind of come down to song selection. When the instruments work on both, then all you got to do is pay $60 for the game. And the games are actually a deal when you break it down. I put this on the forums. There's close to 80 songs, I think, on Rock Band 2, and downloadable content songs are 160 points a piece. So you're spending $60 on 80 songs, where if you were to download each one of those separately, it would be like twice that, like $150.
Next topic.
Good game, in my opinion, was Darksiders.
You were really not hyped, but you were really anxious to play this one over there. Darksiders from THQ, I think, was doing this one.
Yes. First of all, I like that company. Second of all, because the game just looked cool.
What is it exactly? What kind of game is it? In terms of another game, is this like Soul Reaver, those kind of games?
Yep, Soul Reaver would be my first example that I was going to go for. Cypher had a very good analogy there. He goes, think of it as Soul Reaver meets Legend of Zelda. I actually like it kind of for the fact your guy kind of looks like a space marine. You have your sword and this glove, and when you double jump, these like wing things come off your back. Now, I have no idea really what the storyline behind it is, and I'm sure there is one. You run around fighting these like little demon-looking things, and the gameplay was very cool. Now, it didn't look that great, but they said that it was just kind of a dumbed-down demo version. Because I did ask. I said, it's not going to look like this, is it? Because it really looked pixely. And another cool thing was that vest.
I think we talked about this peripheral last year. It's from TN Games, and it's a vest that you wear, which gives you feedback when you're shot in the game.
It kind of pumps a little puff of air inside the vest. Feels like somebody just walks up and poked you in the chest. It doesn't hurt, but there's a definite feedback there.
When I first put the vest on and tried it out, I was like, okay, is this going to hurt? And then when you get hit the first time, it's like, oh.
It kind of tickles.
It kind of tickles and feels nice if you want a massage or something like that, but...
Dude, shoot me again. Shoot me again. Oh, yeah. It was comfortable, and it fit me. I mean, it fit me fine with plenty of room to spare.
If it can fit Keith, and it can fit Chad, which are kind of polar opposites there.
Yeah, it pretty much can fit anybody. And actually, we're going to try and get an interview with the developers. We talked with them for a bit on Sunday. So any games from PAX that you guys didn't get a chance to at least see that you wanted to?
I didn't even get to see Dragon Age because they didn't even have an outside demo.
That was ridiculous.
You had to go into the building.
Yeah, let me paint the picture here for the listeners. A number of the booths had enclosed areas. And the BioWare people were demoing Dragon Age, which is basically Baldur's Gate 3. And their booth was just a castle. And you had to go inside to watch a 30 or 40 minute presentation of Dragon Age. And that was just stupid because we never got a chance to see it.
It wasn't just that it was inside, it was like scheduled. Every hour, every 2 hours, you had to line up to get in. It's not like it was just a constant line up and then you can go in and see.
It was just a very, very dumb setup. Wanted to see what their game was, but couldn't because they wouldn't let us.
Waiting in line to play a game because there's so many people who want to play it is bad enough. Making it exclusive by having an indoor thing and not letting everybody in is even worse. I mean, essentially what you're saying is there's 58,000 people here. We only want 10,000 people to see this game.
Next topic.
Mailbag.
That should work. Okay. Here, this is more for you guys. This is a voicemail message we got.
Hey, GamerCast Network. Name's Weasler. I've been a longtime fan for many years, ever since your past life. And over the years, I've heard you guys complain about a game called Guild Wars. And recently, I decided to pick it up. And I've actually had quite a bit of fun with it. I can't quite remember what your problem was with it. I just wanted to call and ask, what was with all the hate? I mean, it's a great game. I'm having fun with it. Well, anyway, good job with the show, and keep it up. Bye.
It may have changed a little since we played it, because we played it right when it first came out. And our big issue with it was we thought it was going to be Diablo 3, and it turned out to be a PvP game. Even the single-player, non-PvP portion was really just kind of there to be training for the PvP portion.
Yeah, so we've talked about this before, but it's been a while. Our first impression of the game was that it sucked. There's this whole pre-staging area where you can level up to like level 20 before you go out into the quote-unquote real world, and there was lots of limitations there. You could only group with like 4 people. Whatever it was, there was like 1 or 2 less than what we had playing. So
you had to level up to unlock the ability to group.
Yeah, and
I hate that.
The biggest issue we had was we didn't realize that this was just going to be a mainly PvP game. Where, I mean, yes, it's called Guild Wars, and the whole thing is you join a guild and the guilds just fight each other.
It doesn't even make sense in the setting of the game, and Chris did that whole little recording of it. You know, the whole point of the game is that these things are taking over the world, and the world's going to hell in a handbasket. So what are we going to do? Well, let's all get together and kill each other. It doesn't even make sense in the sense of the game. This alien force is going to destroy us all. Let's all beat each other up.
But the reason we have the hate for it was because our group is typically not a PvP playing. We like the PvE stuff, the more role-playing stuff. Even in World of Warcraft, none of us are big PvPers, which is also why none of us are real crazy on Warhammer. Warhammer's going to be mostly PvP, and none of us really like that.
Next topic.
Here's another voicemail we got, and I think we can answer it, but I don't think anyone here really cares. Well, you just listen.
Although Metal Gear Solid is over, it probably ended the best I've ever seen it with the story that it is putting it all together. Although Snake's story is ended, do you think Kojima will continue the Metal Gear Solid series?
Boy, this is the wrong group to ask that question to.
Well, I can actually answer the question, because there is going to be more Metal Gear. Kojima Studios has said it's been basically a misunderstanding that this is the final Metal Gear game. No, it's the final chapter of the Solid Snake story. That's it. They're moving on. They're going to be working on other games. Now, if that's going to be a prequel, another story, other characters, no one knows yet. They're not going to stop Metal Gear. They can't. It's a cash cow for them.
Yeah, it's too easy to just pick out 2 people's names and put them together to make a character name and just go with it.
What?
Okay, what?
What?
Solid Snake, so you could pull out the name Bear
like Flimsy
and
Platypus or something?
There you go.
What did you say? Flimsy Platypus?
Flimsy Platypus instead of Solid Snake. He's going to be their newest hero.
Next topic.
Hey guys, this is Jacob calling just to let you know that everything Chad says is right and everything else that Keith says sucks. Bye. Thanks so much.
Wow.
I guess everything I do say
What's
is
with the
wrong.
hate on Keith?
I'm easy to hate on, man. I
I don't know why. I mean,
You know, I'm not right. Don't assume I'm right.
Or assume he's nice, because he's not that either.
well, that's true. I mean, Keith doesn't have his own Facebook page now.
That was not me. I didn't even do that. That was somebody else made that.
Somebody made you a Facebook page?
Yes.
It was like a Chad appreciation page.
Rock on, Chad. Rock on.
Next topic.
Okay, we did have some normal mail. This is from Ruler of Eden on the forums. He had 3 things to say. 1, in case anybody cares, 1 Megadeth song is in Rock Band 2. Does anyone care?
I like Slayer.
I don't have a problem with Megadeth. You know, the one from Guitar Hero 1, that's a good song, but I'm not standing out on the street corners begging for Megadeth songs to be put into games.
Boy, that could have gone many directions.
I know. I realized that halfway through.
Number 2, he was requesting a ham sandwich.
No.
You can earn it if you meet Ivan out on the street corner.
Here, I guess, is his real question. Is Dungeons & Dragons hard to play?
Dungeons & Dragons, the role-playing pen and paper game, is only as difficult as your dungeon master. If you've got a guy who knows what he's doing, who can run the thing, then it's not hard at all. But if you have several people who are absolutely clueless and have never played before, then yeah, it wouldn't be easy to get started.
Say I'm a Dungeons & Dragons noob. How long would it take me to get the basic starter thing and then just get going. I mean, first off, you probably have to have a group of people to play with.
You need at least 2 people. I would highly recommend for your first time round, whoever is going to be your dungeon master, run with a module on your first time. That way, all the work is already done. It's already there for you.
And then the dungeon master is really just reading.
It's a good way to get your foot in the door to learn what's going on. Bare minimum, your DM will want to read the player's handbook and the dungeon master's guide, and your players should read at least the player's handbook, excluding all the spell crap unless you're going to be a spellcaster.
The thing with Dungeons & Dragons, it's not something like a video game where you can sit down and figure it out in 30 seconds and then play it. It's going to take some investment of time into reading some books or the module or whatever. Doing a whole Dungeons & Dragons campaign the whole point is that it takes you a while. It's not something you can sit down and do in 15 minutes and be done. The kind of investment ahead of time that it takes to figure out how to play the game is kind of equal to what you're getting out of it.
Prepare to invest time, and lots of it, because you're going to be investing hours and hours and hours, and if it's going to be a long-standing campaign, you're talking months and months of your time. The hardest part is honestly finding someone willing to invest the time to Dungeon Master, because you don't get to see your character grow and that kind of thing. You get the joy of
killing
making
people.
The world. Well, hopefully you don't have one of those DMs.
I was going to say, I know people who that's what they try to do. They're DMs who, not, everything they can to kill them, but like every situation they're in is a potential death situation. They'll help them out every once in a while, but they don't mind, killing people off.
So try and avoid the sadistic DMs.
Yeah, make the nice guy the DM.
Next topic.
We should probably mention another iTunes review here. This is one from Patriot 1030. A fair and balanced and independent commentary to the video game industry. Experienced gamers offering up witty, comical, and fresh views to the goings-on around the world of video games. The show is well organized and appropriate for all ages. The hosts are well-spoken and educated.
That's because we use words like investment and interpret.
And beepy things and blinky
and
things.
Blinky lights and zigzaggy thing.
And that was Video Game Show episode number 106 for Sunday, September 7th, 2008. Any ham sandwiches or share dream pies to give to the world peoples?
Ham sandwich, and I know we're going to forget some people, and please forgive us when we do. To all the guys we hung out with at PAX, NC, Evil One, Cypher, Zulfikar, Rigo, his wife, White, 10.
His dad, Roger, Jumpman Vargas, Rothbart, K7 XPS.
Like I said, I know we're
the guys from Sarcastic, the guys from Gamertag,
Godfrey J, Natalie and Nelson.
Talk about games.
Lano, Dave. Also, throw a ham sandwich out there to the guys Ivan and I were playing Gears of War with the other night.
Oh. Yeah, we had some fun playing Gears last night. Cypher was there. Twig was there. Yeah, I haven't played with Twig in a while. It was good to see it. Yeah, D. Nelson was...
There was a couple games going on, but we were only in the one, really. It was a good time. They didn't, completely embarrass us because neither one of us were very good at the game. It was still fun, so...
Right.
Non-game related, ham sandwich to Chris and Heather for being such gracious hosts and hostesses to Sue and I.
I want to give out a ham sandwich to the random people who turned out to be VGS fans that aren't normally active on the forums, but they were kind enough to stop after the panel and say hi and tell us how much they enjoy the show. I think there was a guy, I believe it was Andrew and his wife, ham sandwich to those folks. I mean, I was surprised that there were at least 3 or 4 people that came up to me during the weekend and said, hey, I'm a big fan of the show. I love you guys.
Gigantic double meat ham sandwich to Temple Dog for the shirt graphics. We had tons of people come up to us the whole weekend. Just where we got the shirt, some people realizing that it was a podcast and asking us about it, and even some people knowing what podcast we were from. And
easily the best shirt there.
Hopefully later this week you will be able to order that shirt if you want. I will have links up on the site to order the Emilio shirt by Temple Dog. Look for that later this week on the Video Game Show website. I'll put an announcement up and you'll be able to order as many as you want whenever you want. A couple announcements. Don't forget about the GamerCast Network Gaming Nights. This Friday they're playing Halo 3. Go to the GamerCast Network forums for all the details. And we're starting up a new contest this week. We have a copy of Too Human for the Xbox 360 to give away. All you have to do to win is tell us the most useless superpower, like having very large hair follicles or lemon-scented farts. Something without any practical use, and tell us how you would use it to annoy the world. The best, meaning most useless superpower, will win the game. Get your entries in by Sunday, September 21st. And you can send in your entries along with your comments, questions, queries, concerns, or roll call question to the mailbag at mailbag@videogameshow.org. Skype us at videogameshow or call us at 320-300-GAME. That is a standard long distance call and all normal fees apply. And that's a wrap. Good night. I stay away from Facebook. I stay away from these social networking.
I do too. I have a Facebook page, and I don't use it as much as everyone else does. I used it mainly just to get in touch with people who I haven't talked to in a while. But I stayed the hell away from
MySpace.
I made
Facebook
a MySpace page, but it was only to ask Sue out.
Nice.
I didn't really know Sue that well. I just knew that she was friends with my buddy's wife, and they were always chatting on MySpace. So I figured, okay, that'd be a good way to get my foot in the door. So that's how I initially started talking to her, and didn't come across as, like creepy dude.
Even though you were creepy because you created a MySpace page just to get on the chat.
In hindsight, yeah, it's kind of creepy, but I was already in the house and the door was locked at that time.